Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. Welcome to this week's installment of the Friday Fix with myself, Alex, and Jesse from the AlphaPicks lads. Obviously, if you're not already following them, do so. Their content is elite. Do follow their Slack and their Twitter accounts. Before we crack on with a review of the week and all the stories that matter and the trends and the themes, etc., I'll get the legals out the way. So as usual, nothing discussed on this Spaces session or any Spaces session constitute trading or investment advice, or if there's any kind of endorsement by PiQ, AlphaPicks, myself, Ryan Paisley, Alex, and Jay. How are you, gentlemen?
Very well, very well.
Very well, thanks.
Good.
The whole squad on. Fabulous. Yeah. Do you know what? A little bit of a quieter week on the old news front, I would say.
Do you know what? You say that, right. So, yeah, absolutely. Obviously, it's been a very high benchmark of news recently. And I was thinking this morning. It does feel like it's been one of those weeks where nothing massive has happened. But is that because we've been so accustomed to loads of stuff happening?
I think so.
You know what I mean? Like, a week, this would be quite a big week.
I think part of it is that the biggest news, arguably, of the week, we actually got sort of front loaded sort of over the weekend and into the start of the week. Obviously, with US equity futures flying as the US and China finally got some sort of agreement. Well, I think agreement's a strong word, but positive reciprocal discussions. How about that? Yeah. Framework. That's been used a lot these days, isn't it? Framework.
But you know what? Funny enough, I saw a headline. Well, funny enough, we tweeted it. So one of the obviously the social guys have found the headline on Reuters or whatever. It was Trump saying we've got great deals with the UK and China. I'm like, well, technically we haven't got any deals yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I love how Trump is sort of like passing the buck on to Besant now in terms of like, it's very much a kind of like a hot potato that I think Trump's figured out. He's kicked it across to his buddy Scott, and now it's kind of like, yeah, you know, I think that one of the direct quotes I love from this week was Trump saying something like, "When Besant speaks, the markets listen." Something like that. It's like, okay, bro.
Whenever Besant speaks, everything goes higher. Like, yields are going higher, which doesn't necessarily mean.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, it's like, has anyone told him what yields are doing? But that's like, that seems to be like Trump's remit, right? He comes in, does all the does the big show and kind of the, you know, gives all the big words and says how great the deal is that he's made, and then he's just like slowly, then quietly passes it to someone else to work out all the details.
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, irrespective,
you could do it.
yeah. I mean, I was saying, irrespective. Obviously, he was busy sort of signing deals for Boeing over the course of the week. But the main thing was that over the course of Monday and Tuesday is obviously US equities took this news incredibly positively. Yes. You know, the S&P erased as of Tuesday all of the year-to-date losses, which actually, when you do think about it, given that we are, you know, halfway through May, which, you know, in turn we're almost sort of halfway through the year, is that, you know, for the S&P to have made back all of the April induced losses that's a powerful headline that I think when you actually stop and think about it, like that's, you know, so effectively all of the turmoil of April to some extent, and this is something I think we'll talk about more later on, has been erased. Whether or not over optimism is now in the market is another question, but the fact that it has managed to take off all of those losses is quite an incredible sort of weak point of view.
And to quote our dear friend who is listening in, Mr. Conks, we are so back. But do you know what? It's very rare that we kind of, you know, pat ourselves on the back. You should always pat yourself on the back when you can, is my opinion. And we did say 2 weeks ago, I think it was, when we were discussing kind of where we think the markets are going to be going and stuff. Well, actually, no, sorry, this is even before the China trade announcement. Framework announcement. There we go. We did say that it felt like a lot of the bad news had been front loaded, and how much worse can it get? And I think it might have even been me. It was one of us three mentioned about how it kind of was reminiscent of COVID when we were like in the deepest depths of lockdown, and the market was going, well, hang on, it can't get worse than this. We've got to start buying equities, because otherwise we're going to be too late when the good news does really start hitting. That's kind of the vibe that's played out a little bit. And also, I think it was Alex, I think it was you, possibly a couple of months ago now, that said, when you take a step back and you look how this kind of 4-year term is going to play out, what you want is get all the crap out the way first, and then you're kind of in a bull market. The economy's now kind of putting in good data prints right in time for the midterms, and then everything looks rosy because everyone's going to have forgotten the shit that went on before. Because obviously, everyone has a very, very short window when they're looking back in terms of like, oh, how bad things were. Voters kind of only care about what's put in front of them. So, you could argue, and again, massive caveats here because we don't know what the next headline is going to be. But you could argue that the Trump administration, by front loading all this, like these massively high trade tariffs and whatnot, has really forced the agenda. And it's front loaded all the crap, and now potentially they played a blinder.
Jay, you want to chip in on
that? But
no, I think no, I would echo the same point.
Yeah. There he goes.
Mike Jesse.
One thing that I did want to talk about this week, which is probably partly played into the feeling of lower headlines because we have kind of turned away from tariffs, but it is still Trump. But his tour in the Gulf, which usually for a president his first tour outside of the US would be with a Western ally. So of course Trump likes to be the first to do world-breaking record things. Anyway, so that was an interesting a few events that happened through the week there. Obviously, there were a few numbers bounded around that Trump had said $1 trillion, the White House said $600 billion deal, but actually the numbers that actually came out were about 300 billion so far, which is still something. And then Prince Mohammed had said that they would increase it to 1 trillion in the coming months. So a few different deals there. And just one point for the markets that I was noting was who was in attendance with all of this going on. Had a few of
Jensen.
Jensen was there. You had Lisa Su, is it, from AMD?
Yes.
Alex Karp from Palantir. So I was just making note of the figureheads who were involved. Larry Fink.
And who wasn't there? Who wasn't there, Jay?
That's Tim Cook.
Tim Cook. Where was he, Timmy? You've dropped the ball there, buddy.
Mentioned.
He was.
That's a really good kind of. I know I'm taking my hat off to you, Jay. I think that's really insightful because I hadn't even thought about that. Because having a look around the room and seeing who's there from what companies. And the thing is, how this Trump administration is working is like if they're in the room, chances are we're going to hear about a massive deal in the next couple of days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a really good point. And also, like you said, just in general, going to the Middle East first, like it's everything is thought out with these guys. Right? They're doing this on purpose. They're they're really kind of pushing that the optics on that. No, that's a really good point. Is he actually going to be in Europe at all, Trump, in the foreseeable, or is there nothing? Did I read something?
He's coming to the Stafford next Friday.
Oh God!
He said he's going to join us for the Friday Fix, a live Friday Fix. I don't know actually. I mean, I don't think Europe would be massively high up on his agenda. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure.
You know what? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but we saw Maloney go over to the US. Again, a lot of people, like the pro EU people, were trying to say, "Oh yeah, no, she's the voice of the EU." We kind of know she was the voice of Italy. She is very much Italy first. Like she does not get along with the rest of the bloc, the policymakers in the rest of the bloc. Trump has actually, this week or last week, actually said the EU are nasty people, as in the politicians. I don't think he's referring to like just general citizens. So I wouldn't, it would be really, really funny if he decided to make a trip to Italy and then nowhere else.
Or we'll end up getting somewhere like Vance. We'll get him to promote.
Oh no, there's no chance Vance comes to Europe. Europeans have
true.
It'll be someone else. It'll some Besson.
We'll kick him in the balls. But no, it's very true. But I think sort of going back to that story of like the S&P rallying and like if you look at the futures, 59, 53. Like, I mean, I'm going to call it on here. I reckon we could see 6,000 SP 6,000 for to
I
close the
don't
week
say so.
out.
Did you tweet that this morning?
I tweeted that this morning.
Yeah. I did.
Yeah.
What's going on?
But at that 6,000 level, certainly at like a portfolio level, like we're definitely. I mean, we added yesterday a little VIX trade, but I think it's going to be one, and it's one I actually wrote about this morning about how different volatility measures have come off significantly. So it's like when you look at obviously the VIX, then you look at sort of like euro dollar implied vol and the move index, we're all below April the 2nd levels, and it's kind of like, to us at least, it's kind of like, yes, markets have calmed down a bit, but like the 90-day tariff pauses doesn't equate to like complete peace or optimism. And I think that has been slightly overlooked. In other markets, it's still there and it's still more evident in pricing. But certainly when you look at sort of like, US equity futures or US equity indices, like it does seem to be a little bit ahead of themselves, considering the only trade deal that's actually been done is with ourselves in the UK. And that trade deal was very light on detail and very kind of like wishy-washy. Right? Framework, exactly. Yeah, framework. So, I mean, I just don't, because, I mean, what are we going to be? Like, if some of these 90 days expiry goes through and you don't, I mean, even if there was a great stat I saw, it's like, even if you see just the 10% residual tariffs left on, that would still be the most elevated tariff rate since the end of the Second World War. So it's like, that in itself is like, why are we, why equities pricing, have they really anticipated that? So,
and also like nothing, if we've learned something from this, it's like nothing goes like to plan, right? There's not, I'd be shocked if there's not like some kind of fly in the ointment that kind of pops up at some point. I'm not saying retest lows or anything like that, because I'm permanently I'm a bit of a perma bull, but I'd be shocked if there's not more twists and turns to all of this.
Yeah, for sure. Switching lanes a little bit. 13F filings, fairly fresh actually, overnight, came through for some of our favourite guys, Bill Ackman, or Billy, obviously Buzzer Buffett, and Michael Burry, who got verbally abused by Bar Chart this morning.
Yeah,
absolutely destroyed. Ryan, do you want to explain it for listeners that maybe haven't seen it?
Oh, do you know what? The only points I've read is kind of in passing, and also listening to Conks talk about it and you talk about it. It's probably best if you lead it.
So the tweet I saw was that Barchart tweeted out that Burry has basically the exact one was he's Michael Burry, the man who's predicted 20 of the past 2 market crashes, and then led on to his portfolio actions, which is savage for the poor man.
Again. Let's be really honest. It's survivorship bias, right? So, everyone, he could have been any other fund manager and just lost money, and no one would know who he is. But because he had that one very good decision, very public, very kind of in the limelight, very big, very good call, he then became like a cult figure that everything he said was right. It's kind of the same with like Zoltan and that. They do a couple of good things and everyone thinks they're the Messiah. We've seen since then that actually, his calls aren't that great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for those wondering, so Burry basically liquidated pretty much his entire equity portfolio in Q1. And he took some, I think he bought some puts on like Nvidia and some China stocks. So, I mean, in theory, look, I mean, maybe he pulled a blinder and bought it all back in the middle of April. We'll have to wait and see. But that was Burry. Buffett basically into Q1 didn't really do anything, held his apple, sold down a lot of his bank stocks, so like Citi, Bank of America, trimmed them out. He only increased like little bits and bobs there. So nothing much from Buffett. But actually, I know whilst we're here, let's do fact of the day.
Oh yeah, go on.
Have we got a little?
No, because I'm not on the phone. Yeah, there it is.
Okay, yeah, there we go. So Warren Buffett, right? Very generous man. Been giving away some of his wealth over the course of the past couple of decades, right? So at the minute, his net worth is, let me just pull this up, $167 billion, right? But let's say he hadn't given away any of his Berkshire Hathaway stock over the past 20 years. Now, if that was the case, instead of being worth 167 billion, what would his total net worth be? To the nearest 10 billion, let's say.
That is a very, very good question. Actually, I love that question. But I'm not going to go first. Jay, what's your bet?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what information I know about how much he's given away, which I don't have much. So I'm going to say 250. You say he's 167 now?
Yes, yeah.
Let's say 250. He's given away about a third.
See, I was going to go way higher.
Way
higher. I'm going to say 350.
He would actually be worth approximately 400 billion.
Fucking hell.
I know.
Wow.
It's mad, isn't it?
I tell you what, I would be interested to know as well, because he made Bill Gates diversify out of Microsoft. I'd also be interested to know whether Bill Gates never listened to Buffett.
Yeah, that's another great question. That is massive. But look, so there you go, listeners. If you learn one thing from today's show, don't give your money away. Charities.
Ryan, don't sell any PiQ shares.
No. Although we are trying to raise some money, so if anyone does want some PiQ shares, come and DM me.
So I thought that was very interesting, wasn't it? Also,
I love that.
Yeah, old Bill Ackman. We knew one of them, Hertz, which he tweeted about, didn't he, last week? Bought some more Hertz, and also took a new position in Uber. Interestingly, 30 million shares, which is now the largest holding in his Pershing Squares portfolio. Do I think Uber is like a massively long, high conviction trade at the minute? Not really, but. Yeah, I mean, Ackman, that's what he's been up to.
Ackman, that I think it was an interview, I can't remember, it might have been in Bloomberg or something a little while ago, but he was one of his big kind of themes that he's looking to kind of push forward in the coming decades, really, is like basically building kind of small cities and stuff across America. I'm sure I read something like this, but basically one of his like big investments one of his big themes is looking to build kind of regional hubs and stuff, like whole kind of cities, because he believes that's kind of where the magic will happen and where you can like leverage all of your kind of brands in your portfolio and stuff like that. So I'm sure it was Bill Ackman, but someone's going to probably tell me I've got it completely wrong. But it was quite an interesting read if anyone can dig it out.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, following on from that, because Bill Ackman kind of links his stories, UNH this week obviously continued selling, but Bill Ackman had highlighted in February, I think his tweet was something like, if a company starts firing back at their critics, like they're probably doing it to hide something, and it seems to all be coming out. But then actually they responded yesterday, I think, to the Wall Street Journal and just said it was kind of a maybe premature article from the Wall Street Journal, and there wasn't that much foundation to the Department of Justice inquiry at the moment. But yeah, interesting one to.
It's one of those
600.
It's one of those that kind of it's one of those like no smoke without fire, right? Something doesn't feel right if these things are happening.
Mm. I mean, in any one way your CEO gets assassinated, something's not quite right, is there? I don't know.
There's no way to gloss over that bit, I suppose.
And then slightly changing lanes again, which is one of the things I love about the Friday Fix, Bitcoin. So interesting, Bitcoin fell short of posting fresh record highs at the start of this week, and despite the sort of risk on mood in certainly the equity markets, which has been sort of more correlated to over the past month or so, Bitcoin hasn't sort of felt the love. Potential reasons, some have pointed to Ethereum, which is massively rocketed. I think it was about 40% in the past week. So maybe some flows going out of Bitcoin and heading into sort of some other coins. But a notable absence to the risk on party. If anyone has any thoughts on why or what I've missed on that.
I know me and Cam were funny. We got the crypto blast in 10 minutes with Cam. I know Cam was we were discussing. It's kind of it's an interesting one because there's been lots of positive news coming out for crypto in general, kind of thing, where we've got a mass adoption of stable coins being used on MasterCard, Visa, and all these kind of other sources, and also there's yeah, we kind of said weeks ago when 21 Capital, whatever they were called, like this new treasury Bitcoin treasury company started, that we'll see more of those, and that's what I think there's been like 2 or 3 in the past couple of weeks. So it definitely feels like it feels like the vibe is strong for it. Obviously, everyone loves investing on the vibe, but yeah, it's a bit weird that it's not broke those all-time highs when it feels like everything should be, risk on general, good news coming out. It feels like all the ingredients are there for new highs, but we just haven't hit them. That's my very loose opinion of it.
Coinbase is joining the S&P as well next week. Yeah, which is obviously
so huge upside, but then they got hit by that hack, didn't they?
Yeah.
Give with one and then take with the other.
Yeah, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Sounds like the crypto space. So, and then one last one, from my end, is next week, very under the radar, we're going to see the biggest IPO of the year so far. Not in the US, but on the Hong Kong stock market. I don't know if anyone, if you have seen this story.
I actually read this out on, I think it was like Monday or Tuesday's Morning Blast, so I can't remember the company name.
It's
no. God.
Jay, do you know what it is?
No.
No. CATL. I don't know if people would call it cattle or whatever.
Bollocks. Yeah.
It's a Chinese battery maker.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to go trading on Hong Kong in next Monday. But yeah, essentially it's going to be the most valuable market IPO of the year. And these are the guys that I think we spoke about this about a month or so ago, is that their battery technology, they claim that in 5 minutes of charge, it can give you a range of 520 kilometers.
In 5 minutes?
In 5 minutes, which is absolutely bonkers.
That is kind of, not that I drive, but that's kind of the time it takes, to pull into the petrol station, fill up your car, and then go and pay, right?
Yeah.
And this is kind of what, my motoring friends always kind of say. It's like, well, look, they kind of make a joke about, it just took me 3 minutes to charge my car up, but what they mean is put petrol in it. But now we're kind of competing on those time frames. So, I think, again, coining a crypto term, as we've just talked about Bitcoin, but in terms of EVs in general and stuff, we are so early. Like, this tech is so novel, novel at the moment. There's so the advances in battery tech at the moment, it's just light years away from where we were like 10 years ago. And I think you can lead through on that in terms of battery power in general, which then can be used and utilized on grid infrastructure. I know it's a bit of a sore subject at the moment with what's going on. Apparently these dodgy chips inside of inverters from China on solar panels and stuff, on solar inverters. But I think it's a really exciting time for the whole energy space as a whole because of being led by the battery tech.
Yeah, agreed. So I mean, we'll see how that goes. But
obviously, we would prefer everyone just buys LNG because we got that basket trade.
Do both. Buy everything.
Talking his book again.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, I mean, that's basically everything I wanted to run through. Unless anyone else got anything to shout about.
Jay, you got anything?
No, nothing from my end.
I will give a shameless plug for PiQ because hopefully Monday our new look mobile site is launching, which is also doubling up as an embeddable widget. So if anyone's got a website out there that wants to get a new solution put onto their website, do so. To be honest, I can't wait to start showing around our new mobile look because I am very, very proud of the team for putting this together. So really exciting times for us. But anyway, enough of blowing my own PiQ. Thank you.
Is that next week, Ryan? Comes out?
Yes, I believe
so. The big release is the Hong Kong IPO and PiQ.
Oh yeah, there we go. Oh, I see what you've done.
Equal measure, right?
Do you know what? This is why I love you. Well done. On that great note from Jay. Guys, thank you so much. As always, you guys are fucking brilliant. Listeners, again, I keep saying it, do make sure you're following the guys. Please do yourself a favor and subscribe to their Substack. The content they put out is genuinely the dog's tits. Listeners, whatever you're doing, have a great weekend. Keep it tight. Stay safe. Much love.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy.